Another feature missing from most of our variants of Mo is a conditional form. So we might like if, where we select, based on the Boolean value of test, either then or else branches. So if has these two features that we don't have in our basic Mo, which is some notion of Boolean for test, and also we don't evaluate then or else until we pick one of the branches. So if we tried to have an if function, for example, where we pass these three things in, then and else, we get evaluated too early. Let's take that delaying problem first. I do have a way of delaying then and else when I pass them to a function. I can put then and else into a lambda here, a lambda style function. I'm taking an argument d, which d stands for dummy because I don't care about the argument that comes in. The whole purpose is that I can pass these two procedures to if proc, and that way I don't evaluate then or else right away. And so if proc is somehow, using test, going to select between these two and return one of them. If I call that result with 0, so 0 is going in for d, then I will evaluate only one of then or else. So we've solved the delaying problem. Now we just need a way to represent Booleans. And there are different ways to do this, but the encoding that I'm going to use is right here. So I'm just going to say that true, instead of building true in the language, anytime you wanted to write true, you just write this function here. Anytime you wanted to write false, you write this function here. Now these are different functions. They both take an x and a y. True returns x and false returns y. So they're distinct values. That's the minimal thing that I need from a Boolean. They are functions. They're not distinct from other functions. This is kind of like using 0 and 1 in C for false and true. They're just numbers 0 and 1, but if you use them as Booleans consistently, then things work out. So similarly, as long as I use these two functions as Booleans, then they can do different things and behave like Booleans. The reason this particular encoding is useful is because you can see true takes two things and it selects the first one. False takes two things and it selects the second one. So that overall, I can write if, as I originally had it with test, then, and else parts, like this. I have a test, which is true or false. I pass it these two functions. It's going to select one of them. After I get those functions, one of those functions back, I pass it a 0 in. I'm not actually going to change the parser for Mo to add if, although we could do that. Instead, anytime I want a conditional, I'm going to use this pattern. I am going to use true and false as abbreviations for these functions. That is, I assume true and false are in some sort of Mo library where those names are bound to those functions.